Okay, hello. I'm Jason Shapiro with crowdedmarketreport.com. And today we are continuing our interview series that I think we're calling the Very Unknown Market Wizard series, where we interview some people that are on our Discord that we have found very interesting in their trading and their background and all that. Today's guest would like to remain anonymous for, I think, professional reasons. So we're just going to call him by his Discord name, which is Nathan. So Nathan, welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yeah, glad to have you. Thanks for taking the time. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into trading and your history of all that and the whole nine.
All right. Well, I am the son of a cattle farmer, and so future markets were a part of our life growing up. My father, every day we had a old, early '90s, late '80s Microsoft DOS terminal that showed 20-minute delayed quotes, the more to trade, and I just remember my dad looking at that every single day and elated or panicked, and I remember limit down days from my childhood. So I was always interested in that, and as soon as I turned 18, I started trading stocks, and I did pretty well until I blew out. Probably 2 years after I started, I still remember that experience more so than any of my other trading experiences. If you look back into '06 and '07 in a little stock called Jones Soda, I shorted it all the way up, and I think whenever I covered, I was the top tick, and it fell down to basically worthless today. And needless to say, that was my education, and all those years of working for $6 an hour down the trade or down the drain whenever I blew that one out. So took that lesson, continued
So
to.
what was the lesson you learned on that one?
You can be right and still get liquidated, and I I've never forgot that. And you know, I went to only buying stocks there for probably 5 to 6 years. I was scared to death of shorting after that. Did reasonably well, and then I stumbled into options, which is where I'm at today. I almost exclusively trade options, and it's out of fear. I think a lot of the Wall Street bets community out there, they trade options, trying to YOLO into something and make 1,000%. I try to mathematically find a small edge and make a risk adjusted appropriate gain, and that's worked really well for me here recently. From 22 to today, I've essentially increased my account by 14 times, and I'm doing pretty well, and I have pretty aggressive risk metrics. And although I'm in a drawdown right now, I'm only down 3.5%. Where in the past, before options, I had this uncanny ability to be right a large percentage of the time, but I had this uncanny inability to admit when I was wrong, and I would take massive drawdowns. And I didn't make the progress forward until I really wanted to address that issue. And around that time was also whenever I found the Market Wizards series. I feel like I'm the only person who didn't grow up with the Market Wizards series. Um, it seems everybody has, except for me. I don't know how it remained a secret to me. And I actually read Unknown Market Wizards first. And your chapter really struck a chord with me, as did Chris Camillo's at the time. And for different reasons, I don't think the way he trades is novel as it seemed to me. I'm not really sure there's much I could do in that style. And your personality and your approach to risk really struck a chord with me, given the massive losses I've had in the past, and the fact that you look for that edge. And I'd never even considered futures, just mainly because I remember how devastated my father was when he was sitting on a year's crop and looking at a limit down soybean day. So I was always scared of the lock limit down, but now I've dipped my toe in the futures water.
Now, was your dad using the futures to hedge too, or is just using to monitor prices?
Just to monitor prices. Very, very classic Midwest farmer, and looked at the spread.
Gotcha. So talk to me about this statement that you made. I didn't get it until I really wanted to. What got you to that point?
Um, I started looking at myself and what I was trying to do with my life. Like I have no illusions that I'm going to be a professional trader. I have no illusions that I'm going to be anything special ever. Um, what I really wanted in life was a certain level of success, and so even my risk metrics, like I'll risk 1% of my net worth on any given trade. A lot of people will do a certain percentage of the account. I look at trading as an extension of my life, and once I brought trading into my life and made it a part of who I was properly dedicated. And that's whenever I acquired the ability to really manage my risk and hedge out and not have the hubris of holding on to a losing position and doubling and tripling down. So once trading became part of me, it started to work out much better.
Gotcha. So can you give us a little more? You said you trade options and all that, but like, what do you do?
So what I'll do is I'll have a general macro view, and listening to you and the Sunday call has been tremendous because um, I mean this with all love. A lot of times on the Sunday call, you seem just as confused as I am, and everybody's just as confused as everybody. And I think that's a great comfort. And you outline scenarios that helps me kind of get a general direction of where I think the market's going. And so I'll use a lot of calendar spreads. Um, if I think there's a certain amount of risk and it's priced as such in the near term, I'll sell near and buy far and try to profit from that spread. I'll try to go 2 months out and a week ending option this week. So, like on a Monday or a Tuesday, I would sell this week's option, and then I would buy something a couple months out. And I've got some ratios that I look at that are my North Star, essentially, whether it's a profitable trade or if it's worth it. But by going on a spread like that, for instance, I can appropriately risk that out. If I'm totally wrong and it blows out, I'm just out the amount in the spread. So I can't, you know, destroy myself that way. And that's what's helped the most.
Gotcha. Um, so yeah, I think the point about the Sunday night call is very apropos because I always say it like I was in this book that is called Market Wizards. So people like want to call me a market wizard, and I'm always like, and I think it proves out like I always say if I'm a market wizard, it has nothing to do with my ability to predict the future and everything to do with my ability to take losses better than most. I always say that's really the only thing that I'm very good at. Do I get some of the macro calls and all that stuff correct? Yes. Do I get probably an equal amount of the macro calls incorrect? Yes. You know, um, but that's really not the point. Is what I always try to impress on people, and I think it's good when people when people see that.
I think the best part of CMR is really training people to manage their own risk. You have your process. There's so many different people that do so many different things on the Discord. I don't try to copy what they do, and I've not really tried to do anything different than what I do. But you're a strong voice of reason whenever it comes to managing your risk, and I credit that. This year I'm up 16% so far, and it's been a rough year. And without the service, I'm not sure I would be where I'm at today.
Well, I appreciate that. That really is as you know, the main lesson that I'm trying to impress on people is that this is about managing risk first, you know, and making profits second. If you don't manage risk, you're not going to be around to make the profits. Um, and you know, I like to hear that you're not doing the copy trade thing because I'm always against that anyway. You know, I do put like my trades on there, as you know, but it's really more as a way to show people how I'm managing the risk around my process and how important that is for me. And that should be equally important for you or for anybody, because that is what's going to make the difference. Not copy trading Jason's trades, not copy trading somebody else's trades, doing your trades. But if you're going to copy something, to me, copy the strict adherence to risk control. That's, as you know, what I really try to get through to people. You know,
And I found that I don't have appropriate conviction in a trade unless it's my trade. And so I think
that's exactly right.
when people copy trade, they jump in and who knows where they're going to jump out if it doesn't work out. So I've resisted the temptation to follow some of these great ideas.
Yeah, no, I mean we see it all the time. You know, we see it all the time. You know, two people take the same trade, and one person makes money out of it, and one person doesn't make money out of it. Just because, like you say, if it's not your trade, then you're not going to be able to own it. You know, if it's not your process, you're not going to be able to own it. You're trading somebody else's process who probably has different goals than you. I know with my thing, everybody's goal is to make money. We get it. But as we know, like with my thing, because of the way my business is set up, my money management business, you know, one of the main things that I'm offering to my clients is a negative correlated return stream. I have to make money as well, obviously, but I have to make money, and it's with this negatively correlated thing. So if that's not people's goals, then doing what I do is just silly, quite frankly, you know. But like you say, not to say that there can't the same lessons, I think, are inherent no matter how you trade, right? Which
Absolutely.
is the things that you were talking about. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I mean, I'm glad to hear that that's what you picked up, because that's what the goal was when we started this. You know, I always say it was never to be a tip sheet, which a lot of people do, right? Hey, come to the Market Wizard's website and he's going to tell you how to trade and make money, right? Um, it's never meant to be that. And we get people that join that try to do that, and it tends to not be the greatest thing for them, because we see it time and time again. You know, I'll tell people, hey, I'm shorting this thing at 100, and it will go from 100 to 95, and then it'll go from 95 to 98, and they'll all get out because they don't want to give back their profits. And then I'll go from 98 to 70. And that'll be like one of the 5 or 6 trades of the year that made me all my money. And they missed that, you know, because they, like you say, it wasn't their process, so they can't own it. So therefore they get scared out. And I have traded plenty of different ways, plenty of different things. I've day traded, I've this traded, macro traded, I've done that, and I've been exposed to a lot of people in my career that have also done many different things. So I'm familiar with a lot of these things, and I don't think any of it matters. You know, what matters is risk control. You know, I remember when I had I did an interview with Peter Brandt. I don't know if you saw that one.
Absolutely.
And you know, we solicited people on the Discord if they wanted me to ask him any specific questions. And a lot of the questions like, oh, you know, what moving averages do you use to determine the trend? And he was like, it doesn't matter. You know, he goes, I used to use this one, which was shorter, but then I got older, so I didn't want to trade as much. So I switched it to a longer moving average. So I'd get less trades because I got older and I didn't want to deal with it as much. Right. But it doesn't matter. You know, he said what matters is obviously following your process, riding your winners, cutting your losses, you know. And I thought that was so important from him. That was, to me, the best thing I got out of that conversation.
Yeah, Peter Brandt is special, and you know, as I listened to that interview, and I of course read his chapter in the book, and I've seen some other things that he's done. What he does is he cuts losses so quick, and then he finds a winner, and then he just pyramids on top of it and goes with it. And you know, I'm not sure what his win-loss record is, but I've never been a believer in technical analysis, and that's what he's famous for. But I think the true key to his success is much like yours, is he cuts the losses very quickly and maintains his risk control, just as you've said.
That's, as I've said a million times, that's really what this game is. It's nothing to do with predicting future. Thank God, because none of us can do that over time. So if it was about that, then we would all be well, where 98% of traders end up, which is losing money over time.
Yeah.
Good. So what else can you tell us about good ways to make money or good ways to think about? Are there anything that you might have picked up from CMR or anything you might have picked up from other places?
Yeah. What I've found is to be true to yourself. And I think what CMR has provided me that I would want to share with the world, the YouTube community that might hear this, is it's given me a confidence level in doing what I know. I do a lot of relative value on options, and I've got some spreadsheets and I've got some methods to get there. But much like anything else you're trading, if you believe in it, you've done the math, you've done the homework, you know how you're going to react if things happen. That's the key to success. Before every trade, I make if-then statements and decision trees as to what I will do at what level and with what event. And I do not stray from that decision tree, because whenever I get emotional, whenever anybody gets emotional, over time that will hurt you. And you'll start to question yourself. You'll start to you'll hate yourself. You'll be walking around the house at midnight wondering why you even bother doing this. You should just save money and put it in a high yield savings market. So I've tried to take the emotion of it out. And I think to hear other people who are more talented than me, that are smarter than me, that are more accomplished than me in this game, they struggle with the same things that I do. And so it's given me a lot of confidence to just plan everything out. And as soon as I enter a trade, I know exactly where I'll get out, and I know exactly where I'll add more, and I know exactly under what parameters I would close it out early. So that's the key to making money in my part, is to know thyself. And I'm not going to begin to tell anybody any specific strategy, because there's so many of them out there.
No, I love that idea. The point is, you're doing it as a process, and you're following your process, and if your process is correct, then you're going to do very well. And the sin, obviously, in all this is when your process is correct and you don't do well because of all the emotional decisions that you make along the way that take you off your process. Um, so I love it. I think that's really valuable stuff. It's good to hear yet another person say that that is what their success is based around, because that to me is what this game is. So many people think it's something else. So many people approach this as they're going to predict the future. Oh, the market's going to go up. Oh, the market's going to go down because of this. Oh, the market's going to go up because of this. And it's such a bad habit to get into. The
Yeah.
worst thing that happens is when you do that and you end up being right.
Yeah,
Because
that was me in 2008. I paid for all of my college and the master's degree, taking crazy trades all through the crash. And then once the crash stopped, I could continue to take crazy trades. But thank God I took money out to pay my bills first. But that was the second blowout. Was in 2011, that year where the market did nothing.
yeah, yeah, it's tough. It's tough all the time. It's like there's so many different types of markets. We're going through a whole new thing now with this whole tariff thing and all that, and it's always different. And yet there's always a way. You can blow out in crashes. You can blow out in markets that go straight up. You can blow out in markets that go nowhere. You know what I mean? There's so many different types of markets, and you can, just like you can make money in any of those, you can also lose money in any of those, unfortunately. And that, I think that all starts from your previous bias.
Yeah, and
Worked before, says what I'm going to keep doing, and then that stops working, and because the market sort of changes and you end up blowing out because you're not watching your risk management.
well, and coming into Trump's Liberation Day, I was all in cash, not because I saw what the market was going to do, but because I just had no idea what the market was going to do. And so I'm not trying to say I made a genius call to go to cash before Liberation Day. All I'm saying is I admitted to myself that I had no idea what the market was going to do going into Liberation Day. And so I just decided to pull my chips back and re-enter whenever I had a good plan to enter.
No, also a phenomenal thought and a phenomenal lesson. I watch people all the time, obviously, because of the Discord and people are doing trading and talking about their trades. And you see a lot of people who just need to be in the action all the time.
Yeah.
Which is also, in my view, a very, very dangerous thing. There's not something to do all the time. And look, if you got short into the whole liberation, you made a bunch of money, right? But, you know, I always say the market's either going to go up or down, and you're either going to be long or short. So, you know what I mean? There's always money to be made somewhere if you happen to get that thing that particular day. But that doesn't mean that over time that is a good plan, right?
Absolutely.
In fact, I know that it's not a good plan. And part of learning that lesson is exactly, I think, what you just said. Know when to hold them, know when to fold them, know when to walk away, know when to run, right? No matter what happened, you didn't really have a feel or know what was going to happen. So you backed off. And now we're here the next day and you're ready to play.
Yeah,
You know?
and I still have no idea what I'm going to do, but I can
Right.
promise you this: the lesson I've learned is I'm not going to do anything until I have a good, reasonable thesis as to what to do. Um, and who knows, the market might fly higher or or whatever, and I'll be a spectator and cheer everybody else on.
Yeah, like I say, I can promise you this, it's either going to go up or down. Doesn't mean that there's an edge there, and it doesn't mean that there has to be a trade there, and you feel like you're missing it, and you feel like you're this, and you feel like you're that. But if you have a solid process and you're following that process over time, none of that's going to matter. You go back, I go back and I look at like my return streams, which is over decades at this point, right?
Mhm.
And it's like, oh, here's May of, 2012. Oh, I had a good month in May of 2012. Why? I don't freaking remember. I don't know. You know what I mean? I mean, I know why because I had my process gave me some trade and it worked. You know what I mean? But, it's like if you think about it in those terms, right? Whatever happened this particular day or this particular week or even this particular month, it's really over the long term, it's irrelevant. The one I cite a lot is in '08. I made money with my process, but I was never short stocks. And I was never long bonds. And those were the two big theoretical trades during that period. But I didn't have either one of those. Okay, so what? When I go back and look at my track record, or somebody looks at my track record and said, hey, you did really well in '08. That's all they care about. And that's
Yeah,
what my clients care about. And that's all I care about, right? Doesn't matter how, it doesn't matter why, it doesn't matter where the edge was. Is it like, oh, I'm so stupid, I missed the crash in the stock market? Okay, made money, so who cares, right? No one's asking that. So I think that's a very valid, really, really important point. The idea of waiting, and you know me, I wait excessively. And that doesn't mean that all my trades work. They don't. Sometimes I wait excessively, and I lose anyway.
yeah. I joined the service in I think January of 24.
Mhm.
And I think you might have had one trade the first 4 months that I was part of the service, but I still felt like it was a great deal just listening to the analysis and being part of the Discord. So, but I mean that was probably the best thing for me was to see a market wizard wait to take his shot. And I think he had one soybean trade before a great cotton trade, and then that really got the year fired up, and everything turned out pretty well for you last year.
Yeah, last year was a really good year, and ironically enough, because you're right, the first 4 months of the year there was almost nothing going on, and that's the longest period. I was saying it then. That was the longest period I'd ever gone. And it was very difficult. It was a great learning experience for me because I had never gone through that before. And it was a great sort of discipline thing for me to be like, look, there's nothing there for me. So there's nothing I can do. but fortunately, I didn't lose any money during that period. And so
Absolutely.
therefore, then when the rest of the year went very well, I was not making back losses, and it ended up being a really good year. But and it's the same type of thing, with people who join the service. They join in January of 2024. We get to April, and they're like, "This freaking guy's not doing any trades. What the hell am I here for?" And they leave, and that's fine. But then, they missed out on the last 8 months that were really, really good. And that's okay, because that's not really what they should be there for anyway. Even if I don't have any trades, if I personally don't have any trades, that has nothing really to do with the things that we're talking about and that we're going through, on there. At least I don't think so. I like to believe not.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've only participated, I think, in 4 trades that you had outlined in the weekly report,
Mhm.
because they made sense with my process as well. It was kind of both processes met, and I was very, very confident in entering, and two have worked and 2 didn't. So it just goes to show you. But in any case, it's all part of the game. But I think
Hopefully the two that worked big, and the two that didn't.
they did. They did. They were quite nice. And I had a bit. One was the Swift trade. I had a perfect entry and a perfect exit on that.
Mhm.
And then I hate to say it, but this yen trade, I got in just a little bit better than you did, and then I got out before Liberation Day, and so
Good.
that worked out pretty well for me. And that was more of a function of I have no idea what's going to happen with this tariff thing, so I probably just need to not do anything and not give myself any heartache. So
Yeah.
um, that's not following the CMR process, but that was following the um, you know
Your process,
my process,
which
and
is the
that's
only
one
one
thing
you should be following.
that's what I'll add too is um, if I ever lose confidence in a trade, my rule is I'm out. I don't think about it. I don't you know ask people about it or do more research. If I start to lose belief in what I'm trying to do, I'll just get out and start fresh and try to do the next one correctly.
I always say it to people, man, tomorrow's another day. It'll be open tomorrow. You can be almost assured it'll all be open tomorrow. And the only way you ain't gonna be able to play is if you blew out. So rule number one, don't blow out, right? Stay in the game. Can't win if you're not in the game.
Great.
All right, excellent. Anything else you want to tell us or you want to share with us or anything?
Nope. I appreciate the conversation. I look forward to chatting it up on the Discord. And if you see this on YouTube, we'd love to have you, and we'd love to hear from you.
But come with the right intentions is what I always tell people.
Absolutely.
Come to learn. That's what we're trying to be here. And come not only to learn, come to help. I think you tell me, but I think that we've built it wasn't even the intention when we started this thing, but I think that we've built a really good Discord community at this point where
Best
people,
one I've ever seen.
yeah, I mean, people are doing all kinds of different things and talking about all kinds of different things. And I think helping each other as well, and you know how it is. We get some people on there sometimes that want to start up shit, and we kick them off.
Yep.
That's just not what we're going to be doing here. So anyway, I appreciate your time, Nathan, Trader X,
Thank you.
and we'll talk to you again soon, man. We'll see you on the Discord.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot.
Thanks.